another big industry name in Niles, the Plyms. So this is some of the members of the Plym family buried here. Francis Plym was actually born in Sweden in 1869. He immigrated to the United States when he was a young boy. In 1897, he actually graduated from the University of Illinois. He had a degree in architecture. He also did some design work in New York, like did a postgraduate program in design. Eventually, he settled in Kansas City, Missouri. He was the city architect in Kansas City for a time, too. While he was there, he invented this design. And what the design was for, it was to frame like glass windows on display, like for window fronts in downtowns, like what we think of today. He created and patented a design. They were made out of copper, so they didn't deteriorate as fast as like wood ones would. They would last a lot longer. And so this was like a revolutionary design for him, and it really changed Main Street America as well. So that was that. He called his business Connier. Many of you probably know the Connier name. It did not stay in Kansas City. The company actually moved to Niles around 1906, and late 1906, early 1907. They moved to Niles. He was supposedly influenced by a guy in the community who's actually in the mausoleum, and we're going to talk about. His name was Carmi Smith. But the Connier headquarters were in Niles for a long time, and I'm sure almost everybody knows the Connier name as well. At first they only made the window frames. They then expanded into door frames and entire storefront facades eventually too. So after, in the late 40s, Connier was known to do those aluminum fronts on a lot of the businesses. People consider that very gaudy or ugly today, but at the time, that was the look, this like modern look as well. And actually downtown Niles had a lot of those storefronts. And until the early 2000s, many of them were removed, although there's still some evidence of them downtown as well. They continued in Niles until the early 1980s. The plant closed here in Niles. There actually still is Connier. They're out of in Georgia now too, but the business is still going. Francis Plym died in 1940 too. He married Jenny Barber, who was born in 1874 in Illinois, but she grew up in Nebraska. She actually graduated from the University of Nebraska in 1898. They met while living in out west there, and they married and moved to Niles together. Jenny Barber Plym was very influential in the community. She was in the Women's Progressive League, the Ladies Historical Society. She was a charter member of the Niles Garden Club, and she was part of the local chapter of the American Association of University Women. She was involved in the Fort St. Joseph Historical Association, which was the precursor to the museum that I work at today. And actually, they used some of the museum space in one of the Plym buildings downtown before the museum opened in its current space in the late 1930s. In Niles, the Plyms were also known as philanthropists as well. They donated the building, the home that became Powhatan Hospital, the first public hospital in Niles. They donated the land and turned it to Plym Park, still there in Niles today. Jenny Plym is responsible for the gifting the city the current Niles District Library building in the early 60s. And Haley actually has a really cute photo on the tablet of Jenny Plym at the groundbreaking ceremony for the library in the 60s. The photo's courtesy of the library, but it's so cute because she's wearing her pillbox hat and she has a shovel in her hand and a purse. It's very cute. Check that out. She's awesome. Jenny died in 1970. She also wrote some books on history of the area, too. She was very involved, like I said, in that historical association, too. So their son, Lawrence Plym, and his wife, Mary, who are buried here as well, they were responsible for turning Fernwood from the private residence into the public attraction it is today, the public space. We're going to talk about more with Fernwood in a little bit. So Francis and Jenny are buried here. Lawrence and his wife Mary and their grandson Andrew and his wife Nancy are all buried here. Also, I want to note, Francis has a marker here. He also has a marker up here. This is a Connier made marker, so you can check that out as we go around the corner here. There are 7 Connier markers in the cemetery, him being one, of course. So that's the Plym family. While we're here, I'm just going to point out too, the Wynn McCoy Godsey family. They were also very well known in the Niles area in the 1900s and the mid 1900s. If you've ever heard of McCoy Concrete, they were a large employer in the area. That is that family there too. So we're going to kind of go around the corner here to get into our next area. So we can kind of take the main path around.